まあエリス、これって興奮してるってことよね。
あら、ノキシ書いてたんですの。あなたも混ざりますの。
Jobless Reincarnation, also known as Mushoku Tensei Isekai Itara Honki Desu, follows the story of the newly isekai'd Rudeus. As he grows up, he discovers his magical abilities and decides to become a powerful mage, setting out on an adventure filled with action, drama, and romance. We start out our anime with a typical Japanese man. After meeting his untimely demise, the homeless and jobless Japanese man is given a remarkable opportunity to begin anew in a world that's both fantastical and wondrous. Upon his rebirth, he becomes Rudeus, son of the highly skilled swordsman Paul Greyrat and the gifted healer Zenith. Despite being reborn, he retains all the memories of his previous life, and as such, he's able to quickly adapt to his new surroundings. With time, he even learns how to read and is soon practicing magic, to the amazement of those around him. Realizing his potential, Rudeus's parents enlist the help of Roxy Megurdia, an experienced adventurer, to teach him the art of magic. At first, Roxy is hesitant to take on such a young apprentice, but after witnessing Rudeus's incredible talent for casting spells effortlessly, she knows she's in the presence of a prodigy. In honor of Roxy's arrival, the Grey Rat family hosts a welcome party, and Rudeus takes this opportunity to recommit himself to his studies and to become the best magician he can be. Armed with a renewed sense of purpose, Rudeus is determined to make the most of his second chance at life. As Rudeus reflects on his past life, memories flood his mind of the day he was cast out from his home and was struck by the truck that ended his existence. However, his thoughts soon shift to the present as he focuses on his training with Roxy. For months, he has been honing his magical skills under her guidance, and now he eagerly awaits his graduation exam. As the day of his 5-year-old birthday party arrives, Roxy announces that the time has come for Rudeus to showcase his talents. Filled with anticipation and a hint of nervousness, Rudeus sets out with Roxy by his side. Though he can't help but feel anxious about his past trauma, he finds solace in the fact that he has a supportive companion by his side. As they journey to his exam, he observes how Roxy manages to blend seamlessly into the village, despite being subjected to prejudice due to her demon heritage. It's a heartening realization that provides Rudeus with a newfound sense of hope. When the exam finally arrives, Rudeus summons a massive thunderstorm with his magical abilities, impressing Roxy with his prowess, and after a moment of anticipation, Roxy declares that he has passed with flying colors. As their time together draws to a close, Rudeus expresses his gratitude to Roxy for all she has done for him. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is your favorite anime opening? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now, back to the recap. After conquering his fear of stepping outside, Rudeus gains the confidence to venture into the great outdoors all by himself. It's then that he comes to the rescue of a half-elf child who's being mercilessly bullied by a group of ruffians. Little did Rudeus know that his act of bravery would lead him to forge an unbreakable bond with this child, whom he mistakenly believes is a boy named Sylph. As fate would have it, Sylph quickly becomes Rudeus's closest ally and confidant. Together, they embark on a magical journey of discovery, with Rudeus eagerly teaching Sylph the ways of wizardry. It doesn't take long for Rudeus to realize that Sylph is a gifted magician who can perform spells without ever uttering an incantation. Fast forward 6 months, and Rudeus invites Sylph back to his home on a stormy day. Once inside, Rudeus decides to take a bath with Sylph and forcibly removes the child's clothes. That's when Rudeus makes a startling discovery. Sylph is not a boy, but rather a girl named Sylphiette. Rudeus is overcome with embarrassment and immediately apologizes to Sylphiette for his mistake. But despite his efforts to make amends, Sylphiette starts avoiding him, which fills Rudeus with an overwhelming sense of disappointment. Sometime later, Sylphiette finally reaches out to Rudius and the two patch things up. Overjoyed to have his first real friend in this new world, Rudius makes a promise to cherish their friendship forever. The Grey Rat family is bursting with happiness upon learning that Zenith is expecting once again. However, their joy is abruptly cut short when their maid Lilia reveals that she, too, is carrying a child after engaging in an illicit affair with Paul. This news throws the family into a state of distress, but Rudius steps up to the plate and devises a plan to protect Lilia from Zenith's fury. Despite knowing that Lilia was the one who initiated the relationship with Paul, Rudius convinces his mother to forgive her by having Paul take all the blame for the scandal. Rudius's actions do not go unnoticed, as Lilia is extremely grateful for his efforts and in turn pledges her loyalty to him. Zenith and Lilia both give birth to healthy baby girls named Norn and Aisha, respectively, further solidifying the bond between the two mothers. Meanwhile, Rudius receives a letter from Roxy urging him to study at the Ronoa Magic Academy. This is an exciting opportunity for Rudius, but Sylphiette is apprehensive about him leaving her. Instead of giving up on his dreams, Rudius decides to look for a job to pay for Sylphiette's tuition so that they can both pursue their aspirations together. Eventually, Rudius's parents entrust him to the care of their friend, the beast woman Ghislaine de Doldia. As Ghislaine and Rudius depart from the village, he pulls out a letter from Paul, who had recently discovered a tutoring job for him to pay for his and Sylphiette's studies. However, to Rudius's dismay, the letter includes a strict condition. Paul forbids him from returning home or seeing Sylphiette for the next 5 years. Upon reaching the bustling city of Roa, Rudius meets his new employer, Philip Boreas Greyrat, a prominent figure in town, who also happens to be Rudius's father's cousin and the mayor of Roa. Philip entrusts Rudius with the task of teaching his daughter Eris, but upon meeting her, Rudius is met with hostility. Undeterred, Rudius hatches a plan to gain Eris's trust by staging a kidnapping with Philip's consent. As they are captured, Rudius manages to convince Eris to cooperate with him, and they make a daring escape using his magical abilities. Upon returning to Roa, Rudius's world comes crashing down as he discovers that one of Philip's servants had colluded with the kidnappers, taking advantage of his plan to stage a real kidnapping. Fueled by a desire to protect Eris, Rudius fights off the kidnappers until Ghislaine swoops in to save the day. The criminals are killed and the servant is arrested. Finally returning home, Rudius is pleased to find that Eris has accepted him as her tutor, and he starts living in her house. Philip expresses his gratitude towards Rudius for protecting Eris and reminds him of the importance of secrecy regarding his connection to the Grey Rat family. It is crucial for Rudius to maintain a low profile lest he attract unwanted attention once again. As Ghislaine imparts swordsmanship lessons to Eris and Rudius, Rudius in turn teaches them magic, literacy, and mathematics. Although Eris often finds these subjects boring, Rudius comes up with an ingenious plan to keep her interested. He grants her a day off each week as a reward for her diligent efforts. During one of their leisurely strolls through the city, Eris attempts to purchase an expensive book for Rudius, but he politely declines. Instead, he reminds her that she should use her own money when giving presents to others, and advises her father to give her an allowance. Later, Eris surprises Rudius with a vial that he had previously expressed interest in. However, he is now in a quandary, as the vial turns out to be an aphrodisiac, and he fears that revealing this to Eris and Ghislaine would lead to an awkward situation. As the date of Eris's 10th birthday party draws near, Rudius realizes that she needs to improve her dancing skills. Consequently, he decides to allow her dance teacher to take over a part of his tutoring schedule, creating a well-rounded learning experience for Eris. This gives Rudius some newfound free time, which he decides to put to good use by learning other languages. Despite her best efforts, Eris struggles to make significant improvements in her dancing. She even begins to consider giving up altogether, which leaves Rudius feeling worried. However, he refuses to give up on her and starts to help with her lessons, providing her with the support she needs to keep going. Meanwhile, with Ghislaine and Roxy's help, Rudius makes impressive progress on his foreign language skills. He becomes more fluent with each passing day, taking advantage of the extra time he has. On the other hand, Eris seems to be stuck in a rut, struggling to make any significant progress in her dance lessons. The day of the party arrives, and Eris fails to impress when she tries to dance with another noble. Rudius steps in to save the day, successfully dancing with her after instructing her to incorporate some of her fighting skills into her moves. The crowd is impressed, and Eris is overjoyed. After the party, Rudius meets Eris's grandfather, Saros, who spots a strange ball of light in the sky. He fears that it could be an ominous sign, leaving Rudius feeling uneasy about what's to come. 2 years have passed, and it's time for Rudius's birthday party. Unfortunately, Rudius is feeling down because his family can't attend due to the rising monster activity in the country. Despite this setback, Eris and her family host a party in Rudius's honor. To lift his spirits, Rudius is gifted with a top-quality magic staff. Moreover, Philip expresses his desire for Rudius to marry Eris and take his place as his successor. However, Rudius turns down the offer, feeling that his future lies elsewhere. As the night progresses, Rudius is in for a surprise when he finds Eris waiting for him in his room. With his hormones raging, he makes a move on her, but she resists his advances. Rudius realizes his mistake and apologizes profusely. Fortunately, Eris forgives him, and they both move past the awkwardness. A few days later, a massive cloud of mana appears in the sky, catching the attention of the legendary hero Perugius Dola. He dispatches his aide Arumanfi to investigate the source of the phenomenon. As Arumanfi observes Rudius practicing his magic with Eris and Ghislaine, he becomes suspicious that they might be involved with the cloud's appearance. Without warning, Arumanfi attacks Rudius, but Ghislaine comes to his defense, confirming his innocence. Suddenly, a blinding burst of light envelops them. As Rudius drifted through the ethereal world of his dreams, he found himself face to face with a mysterious figure, the elusive human god. This enigmatic being urged Rudius to rely on the man who saved him and to offer him his aid in return. Suddenly, Rudius awoke, only to discover that he and his companion Eris were stranded in the treacherous demon continent, with no hope of escape. Enter Ruijard Superdia, a member of the feared Superd race, who had come to their rescue. Despite their initial misgivings about him, Ruijard quickly proved himself to be a loyal and trustworthy friend, vowing to help them return home safely. As they journeyed through the hostile terrain, Ruijard shared with Rudius the tragic history of his people, who had been cursed by the malevolent demon god Laplace. The cursed spears they had received had transformed them into bloodthirsty killers, earning them a notorious reputation throughout the land. Determined to clear his friend's name and restore his people's honor, Rudius pledged to assist Ruijard in his quest. Together with Eris, they set out on a perilous journey across the demon continent, encountering countless dangers and obstacles along the way. Despite the many challenges they faced, the trio remained steadfast and resolute in their determination to succeed. With each passing day, they grew closer as they battled their way towards their ultimate goal. And in the end, their efforts were rewarded, as they finally emerged triumphant, having successfully completed their epic journey across the demon continent. As Rudius, Eris, and Ruijard make their way into the bustling city of Rikarisu, they know that they have to be cautious to avoid any trouble. In order to avoid any unwanted attention, Rudius comes up with a clever plan to have Ruijard pose as a member of the Migurdia tribe by dyeing his hair. With their disguise in place, the trio decides to take on the world as adventurers and are even granted official status as the Dead End Group. However, despite their best efforts, their novice status holds them back from taking the higher-paying quests they need to make ends meet. Thankfully, a quest comes their way thanks to the suggestion of the all-knowing human god. They set out to find a lost pet, only to stumble upon a group of ruthless adventurers who have been kidnapping pets to claim the bounties. As the tense situation escalates, one of the kidnappers lands a blow on Rudius, which sends Ruijard into a rage. In a flash, the attacker is gone, and Rudius is left to reprimand Ruijard for his actions. Despite the chaos, the group emerges victorious, and Rudius uses his sharp wit to coerce the kidnappers into joining their party and taking on more challenging quests. With their reputation on the rise, the trio is well on their way to making a name for themselves in the world of adventure. After the mana surge in Fitoa, all of Paul's family members are missing, leaving Norn as the only one left. Concerned for their safety, Paul asks his contacts to mobilize search parties to find them. Meanwhile, Rudius's party sets out on a quest to find a mysterious monster in the heart of a dense forest. However, they're not the only ones searching for the elusive creature. They soon encounter two other parties, both on the same mission. Unfortunately, one of the parties falls victim to a surprise ambush by monsters. Despite the danger, Rudius chooses to wait, a decision that ultimately leads to one of the adventurers being tragically killed. As they continue their search, the monster they are after suddenly attacks and slays the second party before being defeated by Rudius and his team. Upon returning to Rikaresu, Rudius is confronted by an adventurer who has discovered his secret scheme to take on higher-ranked quests. Attempting to blackmail him, the adventurer is met with fierce resistance from Rudius, who is determined to protect Eris at all costs. In a moment of unexpected heroism, Rijard reveals his true identity as a Superd, intimidating the adventurer and warning him to keep quiet or face the consequences. Leaving the city behind, Rudius and Rijard set aside their differences and reconcile, continuing their journey with Eris towards a coastal city on the edge of the Demon Continent. However, little do they know that Roxy, Paul's former companion, is also on her way to the continent, accompanied by two other members of Paul's group. As they disembark from their travel, Roxy and her team arrive simultaneously by boat, but strangely, the two groups fail to run into each other. However, their arrival is met with a daunting reality. Rijard's boat fare is exorbitant and the group is unable to afford it. As Rudius ponders a solution to their predicament, he receives another message from the enigmatic human god, who urges him to buy some food from a specific location. Following these instructions, Rudius discovers a famished vagrant and selflessly feeds her, unaware of the amazing surprise that awaits him. To his amazement, the famished vagrant unveils herself as the demon emperor Kishirika Kishirisu, who gratefully rewards Rudius with a powerful demon eye, enabling him to foresee events before they occur. Rudius soon puts this power to good use, saving a man from danger and cementing his status as a true hero. With his new power in tow, Rudius sets out to acquire the necessary funds to pay for Rijard's passage, but his plan comes under scrutiny from Rijard himself, who points out that it would hurt Eris's feelings. Despite the setback, the man Rudius saved appears before him, introducing himself as Gallus Cleaner. Roxy and her companions, Talhand and Elinalis, embarked on a city-wide search for Paul's missing family, including Rudius. At first, their efforts seem promising, but Roxy soon discovers that Rudius has been traveling incognito, leaving her with no clue of his whereabouts. Despite the setback, Roxy presses on, determined to leave no stone unturned. As she scours the city for any hint of Rudius or his family, Roxy chances upon a surprising sight: Eris and Rijard locked in a fierce sparring match. Alarmed by the display of Superd strength, Roxy decides to make a hasty retreat. Though she hasn't found any leads on Rudius, she knows she can't give up just yet. After exhausting all leads and coming up empty-handed, Roxy and her companions reluctantly decide to move on to the next town. Meanwhile, Rudius and his party manage to make their escape from the city by sea, thanks to Gallus's assistance in smuggling Rijard aboard the ship. Once they reach the port town of Zant, Rudius sets out to fulfill his end of the bargain with Gallus. He heads to the smuggler's hideout, where he learns that he must liberate a group of captive beast children in exchange for Gallus's help. With Rijard by his side, Rudius unleashes his magical prowess and obliterates the smugglers, freeing the children from their captivity. However, their triumph is short-lived, as Rudius finds himself ambushed and taken prisoner by a pair of beastmen, who mistake him for one of the smugglers. They plan to take him back to their village for questioning. Rudius finds himself locked up in Doldia village alongside Geese, a fellow human prisoner who had turned rogue. As they spend a few days in confinement, their fate takes an unexpected turn when the village comes under attack from ruthless smugglers seeking to abduct beast children. Rudius and Geese manage to break free and join forces with the villagers to fend off the attackers. In a fierce battle that ensues, the group fights bravely, taking down many of their foes. However, the mastermind behind the smuggling ring, a villainous man named Gallus, proves to be a formidable adversary, overpowering Geese and killing two of his accomplices. Rudius realizes that he cannot defeat Gallus alone and considers letting him escape. Just when all hope seems lost, a sacred beast arrives on the scene, turning the tide of the battle in favor of the good guys. Together, Rudius, Geese, and the villagers succeed in vanquishing Gallus and his henchmen. Following the battle, Rudius is overjoyed to reunite with Eris and Richard, who were delayed in their arrival due to helping the Doldians eradicate the rest of the smuggling ring. The villagers are remorseful for falsely accusing Rudius and are grateful for his assistance in saving their village. However, back in Fitoa, Eris's grandfather bears the brunt of the city's woes following the Mana Surge. He is stripped of his position, accused of wrongdoing, and ultimately executed by the king. As the rainy season descends upon them, Rudius and his party find themselves trapped in Doldia village for the next 3 months. Despite the lack of mobility, they make the most of their stay and become acquainted with the locals. Eris, in particular, forms a strong bond with the beast children of the village, including the feisty and determined Tona, daughter of the village's most skilled warrior, Gies. However, one day, the mention of a name sends shockwaves through the air. It is Ghislaine, the sister of Gies, who had left the village long ago and is regarded as a traitor for declining to serve as a guardian. Gies' demeanor darkens as he recounts the story of his sister's departure, sparking Tona's interest in the art of sword fighting. Eris, being a skilled fighter herself, readily agrees to become Tona's mentor. As time passes, the rains cease, and Rudius and his companions prepare to depart. But their departure is marred by a sudden falling out between Eris and Tona, who is reluctant to let go of her newfound friend. Gies intervenes, offering a heartfelt apology and revealing the hidden truth about Ghislaine's banishment from the village. He confesses his regret at not understanding his sister's reasons for leaving and pleads with Tona to make amends. With peace restored, Rudius and his group set out for the holy country of Milis, taking Gies along for the ride. Upon arriving at the bustling capital city of Milis, Milishion, the party finds themselves amidst the hustle and bustle of the busy streets. Gies, a member of the group, decides to part ways, bidding farewell to his companions. Meanwhile, Rudius, the ever-resourceful protagonist, suggests that everyone take the day off to rest and explore the city. Just as Rudius is about to kick back and relax, he notices a commotion nearby. It appears that a kidnapping is taking place, and without hesitation, Rudius springs into action. Following the kidnappers, he confronts them head-on, only to be taken aback by the sight of their leader, none other than Paul himself. Paul's explanation leaves Rudius dumbfounded. For the past year and a half, Paul and his team have been tirelessly tracking down all of the missing villagers and their families, all of whom were victims of the teleportation disaster that befell their home village. Rudius is struck with guilt upon hearing this, realizing that he had never thought to do the same or even write a letter home. As their conversation turns heated, the two get into a heated argument that is only diffused by the intervention of Norn. Memories of Rudius's past come flooding back, reminding him of the times he was shunned in his previous life. Overwhelmed by his emotions, Rudius flees the scene. Fortunately, Eris is there to lift Rudius's spirits. With her cheerful disposition and unwavering support, she manages to put a smile on his face, easing the weight on his shoulders. Rudius is grateful for the act. Gies, a wise and thoughtful creature, pays a surprise visit to Paul, shedding light on his true identity as a member of Paul's party. With a gentle nudge, Gies encourages Paul to mend his relationship with Rudius, reminding him that forgiveness is essential, especially for a child. As Paul reflects on his past actions, he is plagued by nightmares of the worst-case scenarios that could have befallen Rudius. Determined to make amends, he vows to quit drinking, a habit that has caused him much grief in the past. The next day, Rudius and Paul cross paths once again, their meeting initially steeped in awkwardness. However, as they delve deeper into their conversation, Rudius realizes that Paul misunderstood his initial intentions and is now attempting to make amends. A heart-to-heart conversation ensues, and the two reconcile, with Paul offering a heartfelt apology. As they bid each other farewell, Rudius confides in Paul that he plans to embark on a mission to search for his missing family after ensuring Eris's safe return home. Despite knowing the danger that lies ahead, Rudius is determined to find his loved ones, and nothing will deter him from his mission. Now it's time for the shout-out. Today we will be shouting out Taz X-Man, who commented, "I'd say Kenichi from history's strongest disciple. Kenichi is the best martial artist. Thanks for commenting, and great opinion." After parting ways with Rudius, Paul receives some encouraging news from Geese. He learns that Geese will continue to search for the rest of Paul's family, traveling to uncharted territories in search of any leads. As Rudius and his party embark on their journey across the sea to the central continent, Roxy finds herself returning to her home village, a place she once called home. Despite being excited to see her parents again, Roxy can't shake the feeling of displacement that comes with her inability to communicate telepathically with her fellow villagers. Nevertheless, she decides to push through and make the most of her time with her family. Although the thought of leaving immediately crosses her mind, Roxy realizes how much her parents have missed her and decides to stay. It's not long before she begins to catch up on all the things she's missed during her travels. As she spends time with her family, Roxy learns that Rudius had visited her parents 2 years ago, and the news brings her immense relief. With her mind at ease, Roxy is able to depart with their companions and continue their search for Rudius's family on the Demon Continent. Had yet another fateful encounter with the enigmatic human god, who bestowed upon him invaluable instructions on how to reunite with his cherished companions, Lilia and Aisha. Eager to follow the deity's guidance, Rudius made his way to the kingdom of Shirone. Upon arriving, he swiftly sent a letter to Roxy, his trusted confidant and a teacher at the royal palace. In a daring rescue mission, Roxy heroically liberated Aisha from her relentless pursuers. As per the human god's wise counsel, Rudius made a conscious decision to conceal his true identity from his own sister, who was under the impression that he was nothing but a debased pervert. This misunderstanding had arisen from a peculiar incident involving Roxy's panties, which had been confiscated by Lilia earlier on. Despite this awkward situation, Rudius remained steadfast in his determination to reunite with his loved ones. However, Rudius soon found himself summoned to the palace for an audience with Roxy. Little did he know, he was walking straight into a trap set by Shirone's nefarious seventh prince, Pax. With Lilia's life hanging in the balance, Rudius was left with no choice but to cooperate with the conniving prince. Infatuated with Roxy, Pax revealed his sinister intentions of using Rudius as bait to capture her. While Rudius patiently waits in his cell, he is suddenly greeted by none other than the third prince of Shirone, Zanoba, who appears to be a huge fan of his artistry skills. Zanoba expresses his desire to become Rudius's apprentice, especially after seeing the incredibly lifelike sculptures he created of Roxy and the Regard. Despite Zanoba's eagerness, Rudius explains that only Pax can release him from his confinement. Nevertheless, Zanoba is determined to find a solution to the problem at hand. Meanwhile, Pax's guards secretly conspire to help Regard, Eris, and Aisha gain access to the palace, agreeing to do so in exchange for rescuing their own families who were held captive by Pax. Zanoba hatches a plan to capture Pax, and with Aisha's help, they successfully coerce him into freeing Rudius. As a result, Pax's guards refuse to aid him any further as they are no longer under his control. Lilia and Aisha are then arranged to be sent back home, and Lilia even returns Roxy's undergarments to Rudius, while also gifting him a special necklace from Sylphiette. In return, Rudius generously gives his forehead protector to Aisha as a memento of their time together. As Aisha bids farewell, she apologizes for previously calling him a pervert, admitting that she had known his true identity all along. Meanwhile, Pax and Zanoba are exiled from the Shirone kingdom, with their banishment cleverly disguised as a study abroad program. As Rudius, Eris, and Regard journeyed on, their path crossed with a formidable figure, none other than Orst, the dragon god himself. Eris and Regard were instantly struck with terror, their bodies frozen in place as they struggled to move. However, Rudius, being the brave soul that he was, disregarded their warnings and approached the god. Orsted wasted no time in quizzing Rudius about the human god, convinced that he was one of his faithful apostles. Yet, before Rudius could respond, the dragon god launched a vicious attack. Regard and Eris jumped to their friend's aid, but were quickly overpowered by Orsted's immense power. The god mortally wounded Rudius, leaving him at death's door. As Rudius felt his life slipping away, he suddenly found himself face to face with the human god. In a shocking revelation, the deity informed Rudius that Orsted was plagued by a series of curses, one of which caused all living things to fear him irrationally. However, Rudius had somehow been immune to its effects. Grateful for the human god's intervention, Rudius thanked him for his help. To his surprise, instead of succumbing to death, he was whisked back to the realm of the living. During the night, as Rudius and Richard sit by the campfire, Rudius eagerly shares the details of the human god's true identity and the gradual fading of the supered curse. Excitement and relief fill the air as they contemplate the possibilities of what this newfound knowledge could mean for their journey. As the sun rises the next day, the party arrives at the ruins of Rudius's hometown, triggering a wave of memories for him. The sights and sounds of his childhood flood back to him, bringing with them a mix of emotions. Despite the bittersweet nostalgia, Rudius remains determined to press on with his mission. In a surprising turn of events, Richard announces his intention to leave the group, recognizing Rudius and Eris's strength and ability to protect themselves. Rudius and Eris bid their loyal companion a heartfelt farewell before continuing their journey towards Roa. Upon arriving at the city, they are greeted by the long-awaited reunion with Ghislaine and her faithful servant Alphonse. However, their joyous reunion is soon clouded by shocking revelations about Eris's family history. Alphonse shares the devastating news that Eris's parents were killed during the teleportation incident, and her grandfather was executed by the king. To make matters worse, the Grey Rat family offers Eris a proposal of marriage to preserve the family line, putting her in a difficult position. Despite the turmoil, Rudius remains focused on finding Sylphiette, and his determination is eventually rewarded with confirmation that she is alive. However, her whereabouts remain a mystery, leaving him with a glimmer of hope, but also a sense of frustration. The night takes a steamy turn as Eris slips into Rudius's tent for a passionate rendezvous. However, their moment of intimacy is short-lived as Rudius wakes up the next morning to find Eris gone, leaving him bewildered and heartbroken. As Rudius falls into a state of depression, he feels lost and helpless, with the memories of his traumatic past flooding his mind. His heart aches as he recalls the severe bullying he faced at school, which left him traumatized and socially withdrawn. However, while Rudius is lost in his dark thoughts, Eris has set out on a courageous journey with Ghislaine, determined to become strong enough to fight Orsted and protect her beloved brother. As the world continues to turn, Richard crosses paths with a group of travelers in need of rescue. Despite revealing his true identity as a superd, he earns their praise for his bravery and kindness. Meanwhile, Zanoba and Geese journey on, their minds filled with fond memories of Rudius and his family. In Doldia village, Geese and Tona train tirelessly together, determined to become stronger and better. Roxy, on the other hand, finds herself in a sticky situation as she encounters Kishirika, who has accumulated an enormous bar tab. Ever the kind-hearted soul, Roxy helps pay the debt, and in return, Kishirika uses her powerful demon eyes to locate the whereabouts of Rudius's family. To their great relief, Aisha and Lilia have safely reunited with Paul and Norn, while Zenith has been found in the labyrinth city of Rapan on the Begarit continent. With their loved ones scattered across the land, Roxy and her party make preparations to embark on a perilous journey to the Begarith continent to rescue Zenith. Meanwhile, despite his depression, Rudius has a vivid dream about his mother, which reminds him of his duty to find her. Filled with renewed purpose, he overcomes his insecurities and sets out on his journey once more. As the winds of fate continue to blow, Sylphiette, now with white hair, tries to convince an unknown group to recruit Rudius into their ranks. What will Rudius do next? Find out when Season 2 comes out.